Hello and welcome back, everyone. I am once again back to yap about something that has been talked about ad nauseum. Roguelikes this time. Now, what is a roguelike? Well, according to the almighty Wikipedia, font of all knowledge, roguelike is a style of role-playing game traditionally characterized by a dungeon crawl through procedurally generated levels, turn-based gameplay, grid-based movement, and permanent death of the player character. Now, not all of these are true to this day about roguelikes or roguelites like the Coors My Dad drinks. Games like Hades, Enter the Gungeon, Risk of Rain 1 and 2, fucking Balatro all have the tag of roguelike or light. But where did all of these games originate from? Well, to know that, we have to go all the way back to 1980, where we meet Michael Toy and Glenn Wichman. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name. These two attended UC Santa Cruz, and the work they did there would forever shape and change the gaming world for decades to come. Now, there are hundreds of titles on Steam alone with the tag of roguelike, paying homage to those who laid the groundwork ahead. To talk about them all would be an impossible task, but I wanted to focus on a few that I personally enjoy. But before that, I wanted to talk about the massive resurgence of the genre in the last decade or so. 2011 was a pretty large year for gaming, with massive titles such as Portal 2, Modern Warfare 3, and of course one of the largest games of all time, Skyrim. This was a great age for gaming, from single-player adventures to multiplayer games being called unspeakable things over voice comms. But there was another game that came out this year that I believe sparked the reignition of roguelikes. And that game is The Binding of Isaac. This game was the result of a 1 week long game jam, and it did absolutely numbers when it came out. Over 14 years later, and it's still sitting at overwhelmingly positive on Steam. This game has stood the test of time. And I've barely ever played it. There was just something about the art style that I didn't really vibe with, and it just seemed kind of gross. I know that that's almost the entire point. You're diving into a monster-filled, disgusting basement of this poor little child. I had never really played it, so I didn't really care about it at the time. I'd never really seen any roguelikes before Isaac, save for a little bit of The Legend of Zelda I played back in the day. But there was something about this game that gripped the internet. People were doing let's plays of it, finding all the secrets and insane power-ups you can attach to this little child, all while he's crying his little eyes out, wanting to escape death. You can come back to this game over and over again. That is, in my opinion, the perfect cycle of a roguelike game. Coming back death after death and just trying to get a little bit farther or make a new item you unlocked work. That is the beauty of these games. No two runs will ever be the exact same. Sure, as you progress, you'll get better at the game, or the game might have a meta progression system that you'll get more consistent runs out of, but none of them are exactly alike. Like little snowflakes made from the tears of a crying child, each run has its own unique challenges. So why am I, a man who has never owned this game and only played it a little bit at a friend's house, talking about it like it's one of my favorites? Well, to reiterate my previous point, without Binding of Isaac, we probably don't get Hades, or Risk of Rain, or Enter the Gungeon. All of these excellent games. These all came out years after Isaac, and I really do think it is thanks to that game that we have reignited this interest in roguelikes as a genre. I mean, if you take a look at most of the games that were coming out around that time, they were a lot of FPSs, a lot of single-player adventure games. Don't get me wrong, but save for those multiplayer FPS games, once you played those, you were done. Once you finished a single-player game, you did finish it. You could go back and replay it, of course, but it would be essentially the same experience. So I do think that Isaac was a success because it made the player come back and push you farther and farther to get more loot and more power-ups just to see what came next. Another game that came out that year that you may have heard of, Minecraft, only the largest game of all time. And I don't think it's a coincidence that these two games were so popular in an era where things were much more limited. The game where you could literally go and do anything, and the game that gave you a new experience each time became very, very successful. It seemed like the people, the players, wanted something different. We now fast forward to today, in the year of our Lord 2025, and the genre is full as hell, with some excellent titles and there's some less than well received, and you could say that it's gotten a little bloated. So what makes a good roguelike, not even from a bad one, but just one that's okay? Well, I've got no fucking clue. I'm not really a critic here. I just play what I think is fun or what's cool. So I can really only talk about what I find fun in these games personally. I could come out and say that tight controls are a top priority, but then you've got Vampire Survivors that has very, very basic controls, and it's fucking awesome. Or maybe I could say it's my own skill and development at the game mechanics that make it more enjoyable. But I'm fucking terrible at Enter the Gungeon, and that's not changing anytime soon. So what does it boil down to? It has to be some kind of combination of these things that make a good roguelike. I do think that one thing that has become staple in roguelikes are meta progression systems. Whether that's more direct, like health upgrades that you get in Hades, or access to better weapons or guns, like in Enter the Gungeon. This has become a very standard practice, and I do believe it helps a great deal when making a good roguelike. And sometimes, if the game doesn't have meta progression system, there is actually still progression happening, I think. Take Spelunky, for example. That game has no meta progression, but it is beloved. The only thing that makes the game easier is the player getting better. And that's progression. Permadeath. Something that sounds very, very scary, but is a defining factor for the genre. You will die in these games. That is a fact. Usually, it is not designed for anyone to beat it on the first go around. This ties into the meta progression, where you're intended to die, you build up skills, as well as you buff your character if the game has systems for that. Losing a really solid run does suck, but it probably won't be the first time that's happened, and it definitely won't be the last. Losing all progress and turning back to square one seems like it would be really frustrating, and sometimes it can be. But really what this is a challenge from the game and from the developers, saying, yeah, you're not quite ready to beat me yet, so why don't you try again? And again, you will try, maybe bashing your head against the wall, trying to make a certain build work or adapting to a completely different style that the game has decided to gift you, because it's a roguelike after all, and RNG can be a fickle mistress. So you die and die again to the point where you become victorious. To me, this is a very similar mentality that Souls players use. I love the Souls games. They're some of my absolute favorite games of all time. And let me tell you, I've never been a good Souls player. I've had to grind my ass off every single time I fought a boss that stood in my way, sometimes up to 9 hours. I'm looking at you, Ornstein and Smo. But failure after failure, you learn something new. When to dodge, when your opening for damage is, when you can hit your Estus Flask, until something breaks and you defeat the roadblock. Roguelikes to me embody this kind of gaming mentality. And once you beat the game, it seems like something suddenly clicks and successful runs seem to come quicker and quicker each time. Or at least that's been my experience. Going all the way back when I first played Hades, it took me forever to kill him. But once I finally did, there was no stopping me. I think I went on like a 10 run win streak after my first win. It was crazy. I don't know, something just clicked for me. But then you might be thinking, well, if death holds no sway, why bother playing? Well, death has a factor. You lose all progress, right? But it's not intended to be a punishment. It's intended to teach you. It's intended to keep you going and motivated to keep playing. So what happens when you beat the game? That's when secrets and unlockables and challenges come into play. All of them, I believe, are cornerstones of the genre once the game has been, in quotes, beaten. There's really so much more to them. If you're someone who wants to get all of the upgrades in a game, you're not only going to have to beat the game at least once, but you're going to have to do it on greater difficulties with restrictions. Maybe sometimes you can't even get hit. The list will absolutely go on and on until it looks insane. These developers are devious and they come up with new and fun ways to keep you, the player, engaged long after you've beaten the game. Silly player, just because you killed the final boss, you think this game is done? You've got jokes. I don't think I've ever stopped playing a roguelike just because I beat the game once. In fact, a lot of these games tell you literally to beat the game multiple times to get the real ending. So you've still got work to do, Samurai, so it's time to wake up and get back to the Gungeon or Asphodel or your mother's basement, because we're not done here. Not by a long shot. And of course, if you're an insane person, you'll take on the hardest challenges that most normal people would find impossible, like heat maxing in Hades, because that apparently has happened twice, which is fucking insane. These games have so much replayability that simply getting one clear, while very satisfying, is really just the beginning. So how do these games stand out now? I've touched on a little bit of what makes these things good, but with literally thousands of these games out in the wild at this point, what really makes one stand above the rest? Well, I think that's a great question. I think, like many things, luck does play a factor, but I would be minimizing the success of very warranted games and the hard work of many talented people if I said that, so I'm not going to. Absolutely fucking not. It's not luck that made Isaac one of the cornerstones of this genre. It wasn't luck that made Balatro one of the best games I played last year. All of the most successful games here have something that makes them unique. For Balatro, it was its seeming simplicity that lures you in and then blasts you with its massive depth of 151 jokers. Or it could have been Hades with its literal museum level of art direction, its fast and tight gameplay. Maybe it was Gungeon's tongue-in-cheek naming conventions with its sizable difficulty. I'm really fucking bad at Gungeon, okay? But I really like that game. All of these games stand out as some of the best examples in the genre, and they couldn't be more different in terms of tone, gameplay, and art direction. With so many ways to tackle the roguelike genre, there's no wonder there are so many excellent versions of these games that stand out apart from each other in a sea of other competitors. The first roguelike that I really played was Risk of Rain 2, an amazing game that I've put literally hundreds of hours into. To me, it's one of those games where I can load it up even after not touching it for years and still remember the game like I played it last week. That, to me, makes a game special. I can load up Risk of Rain, I can load up Hades, I can load up any number of these very beloved roguelikes, continue where I was, try to get a run going, and it's just a blast each and every time. When I played Risk of Rain 2, I started playing with my friends, and I didn't really understand what it meant to be a roguelike. We just got random gear and upgrades for our characters and tried to make our runs last as long as possible. When I first played it, there wasn't even a boss to kill. You would just go until you eventually got one-shot by a Dagannoth, or got tired of the run after it went on for over 2 hours. It is an incredible game that I highly recommend people check out. Pay no attention to the apparent controversy that I have chosen to stay oblivious to. After that, I slowly bought others that piqued my interest, like Vampire Survivors, Hades, Gungeon. All of these are so fun. Vampire Survivors took me by absolute surprise. I didn't think I would have so much fun in a game where it literally shoots and does the damage for you, and all you're doing is just hitting WASD. At least for me, because I play on keyboard. But being able to find all of the different synergies, unlocking characters, trying to get to killing, spoilers, spoiler alert by the way, trying to kill the Grim Reaper that spawns at the end of the match. It's so good, and it's so simple. Hades is one of the prettiest games that I've ever played. Combine that with its exceptionally fast-paced gameplay as well as extremely tight controls, it's one of my favorite games of all time. I know I say that a lot. I've got a lot of favorite games. Sue me, okay? But Hades and Hades 2 are just so fun. And listening to the dialogue, seeing all the very pretty gods and goddesses is just good. It's just a good time. Gungeon is hard. I'm bad at bullet hell games. I've always been bad at them. But being able to have a bullet that fires bullets is incredible. Or having a black hole gun that sucks up all enemies on the map is awesome. It's just such a fun game. All of these games hold a special place in my heart. They're so good. I know everyone here who's listening has played them before. Load them back up. They're so good. With all of this, I'm really excited to see what new and crazy things these developers can come up for this genre. And I know I will eventually play Slay the Spire, because like Binding of Isaac, it is one of those core games right now in the genre that I think really made the deck building roguelikes a popular choice. I haven't played it yet. I will get to it. I understand that it has spawned a plethora of other deck building roguelikes. Not yet, but soon. And I think, my friends, that is where we are going to end today's episode. For anyone that watched this, I want to say thank you for listening to me talk about some of the games that I love for the last however long this ends up being. I have been working on other projects in the meantime, but time has become much less of a common commodity for me recently. I appreciate anyone who's sticking around with me while my channel is in the downtime of RuneScape. I will be putting out a stream schedule soon, and I've already been making good on my promise to stream actually. So if you want to come hang out and watch my playthrough of Dawn Trail from Final Fantasy XIV, I've been playing through that very briefly, but I want to stream most of that MSQ at least. So come say hi if you're in the area. But I want to thank you all so much again for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you all later. Goodbye.